something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stopped. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Hello and welcome back to Day Release with me, Clive Davis, and him,
Robin of the French Roll.
Robin of the French Roll. And as is our wont, we're going to talk about some recent films. This being our excuse to kind of catch up with some recent releases, right? So we don't totally get out of date and irrelevant, although that'll probably happen anyway. But you know, we're fighting against it as best we can by watching a few newish films every month or so.
Yeah. This month, I don't know how many of them are that new.
I mean, we say new. We're trying to. Obviously, we're in different. We're in different time zones, and things get released so we can't always see the absolute newest day and date in theater things. And as well, I think we're trying to choose things a little bit off the beaten path, not the biggest things in your local multiplex. So those things time get staggered releases anyway, right? So, but yeah, they're all kind of about now in vaguely new release-ish sections of whatever streaming site or movie theater or
So what are we doing first?
Well, I'll line up. I'll just say all.
Okay.
So we're going to do In the Court of the Crimson King, King Crimson at 50. And then we're going to do The Lake, Earwig, and finally Project Wolf Hunting, which I think is actually in your theaters right now, right? So I don't know if that's where you saw it.
No, but let me just have a look because I didn't see it anywhere. But
I mean, I think it got a very limited release, but
it's not at the moment.
Some things nowadays they get these kind of token one-day releases, right? So they can become viable for certain awards or
right. Yeah, no, it didn't happen as far as I can see. Anyway,
right, yeah. So anyway, off we go with In the Court of the Crimson King, King Crimson at 50, which I think came out last year, maybe. But it's King Crimson at 50, and King Crimson were formed in 1969. So my guess is that this film was supposed to come out or was supposed to be completed in 2019, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the tour that we see King Crimson on is the 2019 one.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I guess COVID got in the way in some way or another.
Or did it happen a year after or something? I'm not sure. Maybe it happened a year after the tour.
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. Then there are no specific dates. I'm just guessing King Crimson at 50. It's got to be 2019, right?
Yeah.
Unless they're really bad at maths.
Yeah.
So yeah, King Crimson. I mean, we both kind of not. I don't think we're hardcore, but we're casual King Crimson fans.
Well, I would call myself familiar with the what's it called? What's that album anyway? Is that the first album? I'm
Yeah.
not even that familiar with it. With the horrible face, with the face on it.
Yeah. That is in the Court of the Crimson King, isn't it?
It is in the Court of the Crimson King, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just worried that it wasn't. Anyway, yeah.
Don't worry.
I had that on CD.
Come here, Robin. Come here.
Okay, I'm so worried.
Don't worry.
But yeah, it's that's it. Well, and then of that album, it was only really 21st century skits that I listened to. Is it 21st or 20th century? I've forgotten as well.
It is 21st century skits.
Oh, good.
Okay. Yeah. So yes. So as you can tell, huge fan. Robin is a massive.
Yeah.
With an encyclopedic knowledge.
Yeah. Huge. The hugest. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, compared to, I mean, I know a little bit more than that.
Not more than one album.
Yeah, I've got some more albums than that, but then again, I haven't got my head right. So in recent years, Robert Fripp's kind of band leader Robert Fripp has kind of I think he's managed to wrangle back all the copyright and stuff, everything.
Oh, okay.
So they've been putting out like these massive box sets, like between 20 and like 50 CDs, like based around per each major release. So for instance, in the case of, like in the Court of the Crimson King, you'd have the main album, and then you'd have like another CD of like, I don't know, alternative takes, and then all these live like versions.
Yeah.
So it's quite expensive being a hardcore King Crimson fan.
Yeah. Although I think with sort of online stuff, releasing sort of like torrential downpours of live stuff is for a lot of people now, and I find it kind of horrible most of the time.
Well, few bands I think deserve it, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the only band I kind of really go out of my way to, it doesn't matter if I've never heard it before, is The Fall, right? I will listen to pretty much anything that's ever been recorded by them. There's not many bands, even bands I really like, that kind of deserve that kind of devotion. But King Crimson fans, as we'll see from this documentary, are a breed apart, all right? They're like
extremely,
loyal.
The Nun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So directed by Toby Amis, right? This one. And it's following King Crimson on, I'm guessing, this 2019 tour, and there's a little bit of backstory stuff about disputes and fallouts and arguments and stuff in the band's history. And is it Bill Reflin, I think, is he's dying. He's the one who dies before the film.
Yeah.
From a very painful seeming, is it a form of cancer or something?
Yeah.
But he seems quite chipper.
That was sad. I mean, it's from the trailer you kind of get the feeling that it was that it's going to be a sort of whatever that one of those rock and roll documentaries that are full of kind of Spinal Tap-esque intrigue and and haplessness sort of thing, like
Anvil, the story of Anvil or something like that.
I haven't seen that, but from the trailer sort of sells it as like, I can't fucking stand this anymore, like that sort of
right,
like that, and You get the feeling, but it's not like that actually. It's
No, it's
but it has got a Spinal Tap air to it, which I wanted to talk about. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, so yeah. So I will say from the beginning, I really rather enjoyed this.
yeah, I loved
Did
it.
you as well? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
really
weird.
enjoyed it.
I don't really under because it's so much more than the sum of its parts, right? Because it is basically just a bunch of old dodgy geezers on tour fucking
Yeah,
about basically for the camera, right? And that there
mm,
is much more to it than that, really. Like it's not the if you were looking for the in-depth history of
mm,
King Crimson and all the lineup changes, it's not that.
no,
And it's not even really an introductory kind of thing for newer kind of
no,
potential fans.
neither is it a like a fascinating insight into the mind of Robert Fripp or anything like that.
No,
It's
no, even though it is very much. I mean, it's interesting. Robert Fripp, band leader and kind of visionary and
mm,
kind of fascist leader of King Crimson, right?
mm,
And it's interesting how you wonder while you're watching it, like how much of it has been put together under his influence
mm.
or not, right? Like it's kind of difficult to tell. But what's smart about the doc, I think, is like they know. I think they're aware of that. Like they kind
Mm.
of play it up, right? Like
Yeah, it's very irreverent and knowing. You can tell that what's his name again?
Toby Amis.
Yeah, he must, he seems like a friend to them.
Right, right.
And he's allowed certain, he's allowed certain access that other people wouldn't have, and that access is to their sense of humor and to their kind of
Yeah.
irreverence and stuff like that. And
But
yeah,
it's not smug either though. It's not smug and it's not like all in jokes that it's
oh no,
it's walks this line somehow of just I mean
it's
you
just
seem to have,
silliness, a lot of silliness.
yeah.
Huh?
You seem to have had the same experience that I had watching it of like being surprised how much I was enjoying it. Like I
Yeah,
really enjoyed watching this for some
yeah.
weird reason.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed I enjoyed the fans as well, Um
That's fun because they turn the camera literally they turn the camera on the audience sometimes, right? And
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at the audience is quite funny because they're some of them are really into it, right? Like
yeah. Yeah. And the music's really good as well.
yeah,
It made me want to see them live.
yeah. I've never seen them
I was
live. I would like
disappointed that I've never seen them live now. And again, that's my prejudice because I think the Court of the Crimson King, that album, I don't know about you, and I'm gonna probably blaspheme. So if you are a King Crimson fan,
Mm.
I apologize. But the reason I couldn't get past or get to, well, I would play the whole of the album, and just so much of it was too much like the kind of 60s folk revival type stuff where it's and the white flower of the Winchester doth grow.
Right, right.
And
That was good.
really
You should
great
release an album. I'd buy it.
Yeah. 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 Wait, someone rapping at my door. Don't you speak about that way?
No, it's the record company wanting to sign you up.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
good.
No,
Yeah.
I kind of know what you mean. I mean, obviously, because it's the first album, right? So they mutated kind of out of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, but I didn't know that.
All right, okay.
That was where I left. I went, oh, that's such a good song. Why didn't they, and I don't know. And yeah, no, none the wiser as to kind of that whole story, how they mutated out of it and stuff.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, and the other thing that's fascinating is watching Robert Fripp sort of practice all the time, and he's just really brilliant, isn't he? He reminds me of Mr. Pitt from Seinfeld, Elaine's boss from Seinfeld. I don't, if anyone does understand that reference, because I know you wouldn't. It's really, so it's wasted on you, and it's also wasted on 99% of people who have seen Seinfeld as well, because most people would think, well, he's just not like that. But there'll be one person, if that one person happens to watch our show ever, say in 1,000 years or so, even if it's still on YouTube, do write in the comments.
Yes. Absolutely, Robin, you nailed it.
Spot on.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
Get in.
That is one of the, and the internet will explode at that point, or whatever it is in 1,000 years' time. So
it'll be put on your tombstone. He's the guy who made the connection.
Yeah.
Robert Fripp. And what was his name? Mr. Potts.
Mr. Pitt from Seinfeld. Yeah, there's a British actor. He does look similar, but it's more his manner and his bearing that's sort of similar to. He's got this very uptight, kind of, kind of posh bearing. Robert, doesn't he? Really kind of like, like he has to have his socks in a particular way, and you can picture him kind of dusting off his cup before each sip or whatever. Anyway, he has his OCD mannerisms, and and also very straight backed and sort of all that sort of
stuff. Is very straight backed, isn't he? It's interesting as well. King Crimson is one of that select bunch of bands, I think, as well, that that kind of survived being branded prog, and kind of went through the punk era like unscathed by. There was no kind of real big lashback against them. Like they're okay, Crimson. They were still cool to like King Crimson. You could still like Van der Graaf Generator or Can or like Hawk Wind or something like that. Like they were never. They weren't uncool prog, right? Like, they had the skills and everything, but they didn't seem to get too wanky, right?
Well, no, I mean, again, I don't know. Did they? I mean,
don't let that stop you.
Later albums, did they mutate in? What did they mutate into? The stuff that we heard on the documentary, or?
Well, I mean, because I haven't heard it all either, but I've heard. Well, I have not heard anything. I mean, obviously, some things are better than other records, but I've never really heard anything that was too into like, Yes or Emerson, Lake and Palmer or something like that kind of territory, Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I like I say, it definitely piqued my interest, sort of thing.
You might actually listen to another
further beyond the Court of the Kings and Crimson King. But yeah. And I get the name now as well. That's one thing I did learn. I sort of saw the description of the name. Someone was, maybe that was a fan saying that or something. Did you remember that bit where he was saying, well, I would say I get the name. I don't get the name, probably, but that someone was describing it in as this king. Oh, what was it? Sort of creeping through. Can you remember that bit or not?
I know the part you're talking about, but I don't remember what they actually said.
Anyway, it was good, but I can't remember it well enough. But yeah,
that's what you came here today, release.
Yeah. That's my first part where I say I can't remember my first bit.
It's all right, it's fine. because
Zinging.
your enthusiasm shines through just like
Yeah, yeah.
your light off screen there. To your point though about Spinal Tappy thing as well, though, I mean, I suppose the one bit that people that will jump out is there's like a scene, isn't there, during a Robert Fripp interview? I won't say what it is, but you'll know what it is. There's a bit just in the middle of a interview, and you're not sure, is this a put on? Is this kind of like a little gag that they've prepared for, or is this a real reaction that we're seeing right now?
No, I'm not. I can't remember which bit you're talking about.
Oh, really? There's like one bit that will just jump out when you're watching it. That is very peculiar and strange. And well, we'll leave it for viewers to find.
Okay, and me to rewatch it.
Yes, there we go.
Well, you can tell me afterwards.
I will. Yeah. I mean, it's not a spoiler or anything, but it's worth stumbling across by yourself, I think. I didn't realize as well. I didn't realize it because in the credits at the end, Hoya Wilcox gets an additional camera. I didn't realize she was Mrs. Robert Fripp. I didn't know.
No, I knew that for quite a while.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's one thing I knew and you didn't. None of you King Crimson fans knew. Yeah.
Pretty sure they know. They probably know.
I think they probably know
Robert Fripp's underpants size, right?
Yeah. What type of stitching he has? I guess has to be the same across. Anyway, I don't want to be disparaging about Robert Fripp. He's a very interesting guy, and he did come across as he's sort of like he's made of granite or something, but but he's still all right. He's still got a sense of humor ish.
Yeah. So are we done with
we're done. It's great, isn't it? Everyone
I got it. Much more than I expected. I just, because we both like King Crimson, I just thought, I'll chuck it in the machine, we'll have a look at it. But I didn't expect it to be that much fun to watch.
Yeah. Yep.
So the lake.
Yeah. Do I do the plot of the lake?
Young Can. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Try your best.
Well, some of it's a blur, but it was there's two. There's this egg by a lake, and people keep picking it up and then getting eaten by a lake creature. And then there's some cops. They're both quite rubbish. One of them points at things and says the thing he's pointing at, and then the other one wears aviators, and they haplessly go through the film being shit at being policemen, and until the creatures comes to the town and starts to eat more people. There's two creatures, one big, one small, and an egg. And and lots of people are running away from it. And then finally the aviator cop heroically jumps in water for some reason to save his daughter. That bit's not clear, but that helps in some way. And I don't know, it didn't actually. And then it killed the creature, or it didn't kill it. I mean, and then some extra. There's a lot of narrative threads that don't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. So it's a creature feature. Obviously, it's a monster film. Which has too many characters. Because you're not quite sure who you're supposed to be focusing on, right? Because it keeps changing its allegiance. So we should So we should mention before we have too much of a go at this film, the main writer director Lee Thong Kam. So this is
You make me feel guilty or something.
No. I agree with pretty much everything you said. It's a Thai film, but it's also, well, actually weirdly, so on the IMDb, it has it as a Thai Australian co-production, but they don't mention China at all. But so the director was interviewed on another podcast, the Kaiju Transmissions podcast, and he was explaining that there's a lot of Chinese money in the film. And they actually assigned a second Chinese director as well, who is credited Ching Chu. And so all that stuff there's a couple of characters, Chinese characters, right, who are, I didn't pick up that they were Chinese either, so not just you, I can see why you're confused. But they're the two people who are investigating the climate change. Climate change investigators.
Oh yeah.
It's like a dude and actually quite a
I remember.
quite a hot chick, who we don't see much of, unfortunately. But apparently they're going to be in. There's more of them in. So there's going to be a Chinese release of this film.
Oh.
With more of a focus on that hot chick and the other guy.
Okay.
And apparently they're Chinese characters. So, and they were shoehorned into the film, apparently by the insistence of the people who brought the Chinese money.
Right.
So the director did slightly have to compromise what he was doing by the Chinese investors. From what
okay.
And there's going to be another release of it, which has a kind of different focus anyway, with more footage of, which I might watch just because I fancy that bird. But
oh, they used the noise of Godzilla, and also I think they spliced the noise of Godzilla with the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park. I think that was the creature's noise. There were two noises in it. Anyway,
it could be. I mean, Jurassic Park's definitely. Well, I know because he mentioned it in his interview, but also even before I heard that interview, there's a lot of like dino-like creatures peering through car windows and things, right? Which is very while it rains, there's a lot of rain in this film as well, right?
Yeah.
It also has kind of
a debut or not? Sorry, I'm just.
I think it might be his debut feature. Yeah. He did these other like fan films based on Marvel characters before this film. Right?
The Punisher.
Yeah. But this is his professional gig, I think. It also has so it's too long at 104 minutes. It's too long. And it also has a confusing structure. And the only reason I know, because I'm paying attention, I'm writing notes on it, but I would imagine most viewers might miss the fact that the beginning of the film is the very, 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 very beginning is supposed to be contemporary, and then we jump back 5 years, right? So the majority of the action film is supposed to take place in 2017, and then at the very end we jump forward again, right?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I probably should have made notes. No, I didn't realize we need to do that. But there's it was like a sort of teenager's film in a way. It's convoluted and disjointed, and a lot of it didn't make much sense.
But it's the editing as well. There's really weird edit, like scenes go on. There's like a few scenes like, so yes. So to start off, to be honest, at the beginning I thought it wasn't too bad. Like when you get the smaller monster, which is like a practical effect. It's like a man in quite a good suit, like chasing people through rice fields, and that stuff's not bad. But then when it gets to the city and the big monster turns up, it's like that whole panic scene They keep cutting back and forth between characters, and it takes you a while to figure out, oh, hang on, we're still here. Like, this thing's going on for fucking ages, and
Yeah.
like, why haven't everyone run away by now? And it just, the time signatures and everything are really.
There were loads of rookie mistakes like that, like like following someone, and then also I think they probably like at first I thought it was deliberate, but breaking the whatever it is, 180-degree
Oh, the
rule.
crossing the line.
You know, there was a lot of that kind of, I thought it was deliberate, but after a while I was thinking, this is just sort of like, very sort of teenager-y kind of, well, we shot it, so let's, well, there was one part where I can't remember that, where it really just went completely disjointed, and I thought, oh, they must have, he must have just forgot that to edit that bit out. There was one bit that was just went completely wrong. It was
the concept of time in this film is very confused. Like they really took their eye off the ball, so you're not quite sure when something is happening, or has it moved on or not. And in the end it just becomes disorientating and unfortunately kind of boring, right? Like, because any suspense that they might have built up totally dissipates, because you don't know where you are in the spatial kind of time, spatial chronology of the film. You have no idea where you are. I mean, it's cliched enough, which is not necessarily a problem, but it's cliched enough so you don't get lost. You know what the story is basically. The cop, estranged daughter, blah blah blah, ends up dying, and he blames himself, and he talks to his dead wife in a graveyard. So there's enough cliched stuff to anchor you, so you don't actually get lost in the story. You know what the story's about, but you don't really quite know at what point. And it's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a shame. And there was a lot of online buzz about this film,
right? Because you had said it's supposed to be good.
exactly. That's why, because this was
did this come about?
We were only going to do 3 films, right? And then we thought, oh, I've got access to this. Let's take a look at it. And but no, it doesn't. I think one of the problems might have been, I haven't seen any of them, but I've heard the trailers were really quite good. Like the trailers, like it might have been something special, and the end result didn't quite live up to them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think I don't know. Maybe it tried to have a bit of a Stranger Things atmosphere to it in some way, and it was appealing to that.
Could be. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with Stranger Things.
It's sort of, the creature itself had a bit of, that flair to it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It was. There was nothing. There was not much to redeem it in the end. I think it was.
Oh, I mean, I can see the director getting his shit together, and maybe. I mean, in some ways, it's not. I mean, it's quite. Even though all the post stuff, the editing, but the actual shooting stuff, like is quite well done for what must be a fairly low budget film. Like.
Yeah. Low budget, but they still managed to get. I mean, you could tell there was a lack of extras.
But
they had the most of who they had.
Like,
but
he has enough of a sense of mixing practical effects with digital to make it look reasonable, right? Like that stuff I didn't have a problem with. So I can imagine him like this being a calling card, and then him getting a bigger gig on like one of those big.
But it seems strange to have got like that much money together in the first place, and get that many practical effects and costumes and whatnot, and some like enough extras to sort of fill a small area. and yet not know how to edit a film. It seems
Right.
weird, weird sort of amateurish decisions to have gone wrong
Right.
in that way, because usually you would expect, I don't know, you would expect the plot to be rubbish, but I don't know, just having that bad editing isn't something I usually expect, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I mean,
Anyway.
we should also keep in mind the studio interference angle as well, right? So,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see if Lee Thongkam came up with something better next time. So yeah, I suppose that's a positive takeaway.
Yeah. Benefit of the doubt. Stamp
There
of
we go.
approval.
And
All right.
I'll watch that other version when it comes out. So that brings us to we're racing through today.
Yeah, well, there's not a huge amount to say. What are we doing now?
Earwig.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, who's doing the plot for that?
You're pronouncing it properly. Earwig. I'm doing the Welsh Earwig.
Yeah, that really confused me when I first arrived in Wales.
I know, that's why I brought it up, because I remember us.
Yeah, but I got it now.
Yeah,
but for those people at home, I've learned to say, yeah. Anyway,
what I'm trying to say is Earwig. Yes.
Yeah. Does it make you feel a bit sick when you say it that way?
Not
it makes you
look. I'm coughing is sticking in my craw.
Yeah.
Earwig. So this one, this is probably the oldest selection here. I think this is actually from 2021, right? It was released. This is an UK, French, Belgian film.
Yeah.
Based on a book by Brian or B. Catling, who actually died last year. He's most famous for writing this fantasy trilogy called The Vow, right? Which I'm quite keen on reading. It's apparently Terry Gilliam was a big fan. Alan Moore. It got a lot of. He was also a bit of a collaborator with Ian Sinclair. I think he's kind of a poet and a performance artist and a sculptor who started writing novels a bit later in life, including Earwig. Did you get a chance to read the book?
No, I did not. No.
Okie doke. Don't worry, I did.
I was hoping you did.
Yeah, I did. It's a pretty brief read, actually. It's not a very long novel. And the film follows it fairly closely. There's a few kind of differences here and there, but it's pretty close, I would say. So there's a kind of dark, dingy apartment, which is it's never specified in the film, but it seems to be like somewhere in Europe, mid 20th century, right? Yeah,
it says in the book, doesn't it?
It does. They travel. I think it might actually be in Belgium, because they travel to France. The film was shot in Brussels, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's Brussels, France kind of area. And so there's a dude who lives there, Paul Hilton, and he's kind of been assigned as a caretaker, right? There's this little girl, as played by Romane Hemeliers. I don't know.
Hemeliers, yeah.
She's very good, though. I'll give her that. She's very good. And so his job is just basically to kind of look after her. and she she's not allowed outside or anything. She's just in this house, and she has this contraption attached to her face that collects her. So I was wondering actually if you got this, because I was wondering if this might be a bit confusing if you hadn't read the book.
Yeah,
What
so
do you think
if you
that
haven't
contraption does?
if you haven't read the book, what I
Well, you
thought it
tell
was-
me, what do you think it does then?
obviously I read afterwards what's going
Oh,
on.
okay, okay.
But if you haven't read the book, I can give you the impression before,
Yeah,
which was it's collecting some sort of amber that she's secreting from her mouth, and then he collects that, and then that amber is some form of time dilation liquid, which he then, I think, puts in a
imagination
gun,
you have, young Robin.
puts back in her mouth. And then there's a baby involved in the picture. Yeah, and some stabbing goes on. Anyway, carry on.
Yes, nil pois. It is actually just yeah, he's just collecting her spit,
Mm.
and then using these molds, he turns this. He puts the spit in these teeth molds, puts them in the fridge. So he's basically making ice teeth out of her own spit, and then puts them back in. And in the book, it explains a little bit more how basically she does this fairly often. So she has nice, fresh ice teeth for like 2 or 3 hours a day until they melt. Yeah,
I think they found that hard to do effects wise.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was watching the film very closely because I was aware, I knew what was happening because I'd read the book. I was aware that I might be filling in the blanks. So I went back.
You read it before, sorry.
Yeah, I read the book first, and then so I rewound those bits just to see if I could understand what was happening. And it was, yes, I don't know if I would get that from the film, specifically what he was doing.
No.
Which is kind of a shame because I quite enjoyed the book, but even though it's not a brilliant book, I quite enjoyed the book. But the thing the book has going for it is that kind of weird imagery, right? Like the whole idea of turning your own spit into ice teeth, and like it makes not a lick of sense. It's never explained as to why they might be doing this, but it doesn't matter because the image is so strong, right? And because the film's slightly missing that main image, I found the film kind of a bit more flimsy because it doesn't have that central iconic kind of,
Yeah. Oh, well, you haven't finished with the plot, Clive.
Okay, yeah, sorry. And so he gets his instructions over the phone, right? He gets his instructions over the phone, and it turns out that it's all in English language as well, we should mention, even though it's shot in Brussels. I didn't realize. I thought it was going to be Belgian or French. So he has to the contract or whatever looking after this little girl has ended, so he has to deliver her to a certain time and place. So he has to prepare her for the outside world. And then somewhere along the line, and this is when it gets a little bit confusing in terms of timelines, right? He gets into a strange kind of a man as played by Peter van de Begin turns up in a pub to kind of irritate him. He seems to know a little bit too much about his past, right? And then Paul Hilton ends up accidentally stabbing a barmaid, as played by Romola Garai, in the face with a broken bottle and disfigures her. So then it seems as if she's treated for her disfigurement by another character, it turns up, as played by Alex Lowther, this doctor, and nurses her back to health. And then towards the end of the film, where he has to hand over the little girl back to whoever's, like, whatever the hell they need her for. something sinister, it seems. The two stories kind of intertwine at the end, right? And there's kind of quite a, there's quite an, it's got one of those endings that's like, I quite like the very, very end of the film. Like it had a slightly cumulative effect, but
yeah,
but not enough, I don't think, to justify the rest of the film, because it's close to a 2-hour running time, right? Which it wouldn't take you much longer to read the book, actually, which I would recommend the book over the film this time. But
well, you to mention the key thing, or probably the most important part.
okay, well that's why you're here, Robin.
Yeah, is the house that they end up in, and there's the boy in the window. He's looking, and the girl has some sort of psychic connection to the boy, and she's looking at the house and going, "Ooh," and then the woman who has her face stabbed, she has some kind of, the boy in the house was her child, we led to believe, and
okay, interestingly, the painting isn't in the book.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
So they added stuff that made it look like there was a plot.
Well, there is a boy in the book, but the boy is more connected. He's like this character who delivers things to the house. So the whole section where, so that's strange as well. So for instance, there's kind of a bit of a gag in the book why the cat ends up being delivered. You remember there's a cat suddenly delivered. That actually kind of makes more sense in the book, and it's kind of a bit of a joke. Whereas in the film, you're wondering, why did they bring a cat? Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What did you make of just going by the film itself? What did you make of
Yeah, well, it was okay. It was, filled with the bleakness of spring that we experience. Yes, I mean it was so bleak. There was some really good, like, low budget photography that I was kind of fascinated by, like the bit on the train through the mist. To get a shot like that,
yeah,
must be pretty hard, like on a very low budget, unless of course they did it digitally or something. But anyway,
no, I agree. It's a good looking. I like the world of the film in a way. We should mention as well, directed by Lucille Haji Halilovic. I guess her third feature. I've not seen any of her other films, but no, she's clearly, yeah. It's not, you couldn't call it a badly directed film. She clearly knows what she's doing.
I think it's it's hard to bring us a kind of I don't know what a weird novel. I can't remember. I can't think of a better name for that kind of novel.
Yeah, it is a weird novel. Yeah.
To screen, unless you could, because what you're trying to do, I guess, is to bring the atmosphere of the book into, onto the screen. And I haven't read the book. I don't know. So you could be the judge of that. But I would say that maybe that it all probably almost worked, but didn't quite, because it just on its own merits, because you'd like to think that so just maybe it just didn't translate that well. You'd like to think that there would be enough sort of atmosphere in there to to intrigue you through it, but
right. No, I in terms of adapting the atmosphere of the book, I have to admit they did really do a really good job. I mean, I was actually quite surprised. By and large, this is what I was imagining while I was reading the book. She really did a good job of capturing the kind of atmosphere. But I don't know, there's something about I felt as if it's weird in a way. It's almost a victim of its own faithfulness, like it's a bit too faithful to the book in a way. Like,
yeah, I was going to say that as well. Yeah, like trying to be too dogmatic about ended up, it only made sense to you if because it's disjointed and there's no real narrative or whatever I can work out from the book. It just ends up a sequence of what's the word, pastiche or no, not pastiche. I've forgotten the word, like a montage almost of different disjointed parts that then don't fulfill
like
any
a patchwork.
Yeah, so it kind of it disappoints in that way of making your expectations be that this bit's not going to relate to the next bit really. They're going to relate, but they're not going to, they're not really going to. So yeah, like for example, she seemed to be eating insects, although that's apparently not in the book, is it?
Oh, that is in the book. Yeah, she's I mean, not in the house, but when she's cracking, what she's doing is she's picking like flea eggs off the cat and cracking her teeth. Yeah,
but in the house, she's eating the paper and
that's not in the book. There's nothing about bugs in the house in the book.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just if you think about it, like if you were to go and make a film like that without there being that book, how would you go about making? Maybe they needed to think about it in that way, in its own right, so that you would make a film that had the atmosphere, but also had some sense of itself a bit more. I don't know.
There's another important element of the book as well, which they kind of they left out, and I understand why they did it, but the film's still called Earwig, and that main character is the Earwig, and he has this whole backstory. So he's listening in with the glasses on the walls and stuff, but he has this whole backstory about how during the war he had this job which involved listening on the coast for like incoming planes and stuff using these ear horns, and how some of his comrades just kind of got wiped out and it didn't seem to affect him at all. And I mean, again, in a way, Brian Caitlin's book as well, you could argue, is not exactly a narrative triumph. It's more, oh, here's a cool image, or here's an interesting image, and it's kind of woven together, and it works well enough. And so similarly, the film, I think, it doesn't quite have enough to sustain it as a mood piece for 114 minutes, right?
Well, it's like someone was one of the reviews was comparing it to Eraserhead. Claire was also thinking about David Cronenberg, but yeah. Do you remember watching is it called A Close Shave? But it's not the Scorsese thing of where he's shaving and then
yeah. I love the short film.
Yeah, and that is a pastiche, right? That's right. When I look at what's the word? What does pastiche mean? That's right. It's a pastiche. Anyway, it's like a I've completely forgotten. My mind has gone blank. I've forgotten the word. But anyway, it's alluding to the sort of the First World War. I think that film, or the Second World War.
The
I can't quite
shave
remember.
one.
Yeah.
The shaving one, if I remember correctly, was apparently a Vietnam allegory, wasn't it?
Oh, was it an allegory for the bit? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I buy that, but that's what people said about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So in a way, I at first I thought, oh, maybe this is some sort of allegorical thing to do with the First or Second World War or something like that, and just but think about how Eraserhead works on its own,
right? Purely on a dreamlike level, right? It is a dream, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't need a book for backup or anything like that. And it does work.
Yeah,
and there's like a fine line between the two. I think how Earwig doesn't quite hit the mark because it's got too many bits that kind of you're just going what, oh, it's that, and I think it's constantly looks like it's promising to tie everything together at the end, but full well that it's not, whereas you never expect that from Eraserhead.
Yeah, I mean, Eraserhead has the courage of its convictions to just be a dream on film. Like it's almost like the narratives by accident, right? That like yeah, they haven't tried to put it into a narrative, really, which is the strength of the film, right? Well, yeah, this is different, right? It seems as if there is an attempt at bringing it together in some way. I don't know. It's a film.
It was okay. I still sort of enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have a certain amount of goodwill towards it, and I can kind of imagine maybe seeing it again one day. Whereas I'm resigned knowing what it is, and I'm resigned to the pace of it, and I might enjoy it more.
Yeah, it's sort of atmospheric, and so you didn't. There's the bit with the painting, and then there's a little baby crib thing appears in the painting and then disappears again. It's not in the book.
The painting stuff isn't in the book, no.
That was just more time dilation amber dribble.
Right, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing it was some sort of, I suppose, from the transition, like you said, from the transition to the book to the film, they were like, well, there's certain things we can't do in the film, really, because it's not going to make any sense. So let's see if we can find another more visual way for it to come across, right? But it's an interesting film. I'd much rather watch something like this, which doesn't quite work, but is different, than something more conventional and maybe a bit more successful. I mean, it's not a film like when it ended, I was like, I was just, no. It's a shame I didn't enjoy that more. And like I said, the ending as well, almost made up for it, just because I felt there's something about slightly cumulative effect about that ending.
Yeah.
But to be honest, not quite. I think I would, if I was going to.
I can see why people who watched it at the London Film Festival, for example, reviewers. There was one in the Guardian. I've forgotten his name.
Pete Bradshaw, I think, was it?
I think he said he had to go back to it. I can see why he was struck by it a bit, because if I'd have seen it at the London Film Festival, which is bang in whatever it's November or whatever, isn't it? Or so it's right at the right time to go and see a film like that. And just cold, dark, and then in a proper cinema, and with the only thing I can't abide by is the microphone inside the mouth thing of eating food.
Ah, not a fan.
And I suppose after I read afterwards, obviously, that he can hear really well, but
Yeah.
I can hear really well. I don't want to. I have a real problem with it.
Well, like I said, that's another aspect that they took out a little bit of, is the whole hearing thing. Yeah, the thing about the ending as well. This is going to sound but it's, I don't mean it. It's also, I remember there's a film from the 60s called The Day Mars Invaded Earth, which had this slight kind of cult reputation, and it would play late night television like in the 80s and stuff. And it was one of those films I kind of understood its cult reputation, because I think it's actually quite a boring film, like with a really strong last image. And my thesis is that many people watched it on late night TV, fell asleep, woke up right at the end, and thought they'd seen like a really cool kind of cult film. And I think Earwig as well would benefit from dozing off and then waking up and catching the ending. And then you think, that was really quite powerful. That was really quite good, you know.
I wonder how many reviews did. I mean, wake up just at the point where the train. I would say that'd be where it really. I think from there you could probably think, wow, that was profound. But up until that, the two almost halves of the film sort of buttress up against one another not very well. Just there's there's
set
slow
your alarm,
build,
folks. Set your alarms, folks.
Yeah.
For the best viewing experience.
Start watching it.
Yeah, we don't want to be unfair to Earwig. I think we're both kind of we're willing to give it another go one day, right? I think.
Again, we've now seen like quite a few attempts at sort of weird and kind of horror-ish or
right
horrific films now as part of what we've watched, and very few of them have really hit the mark completely for whatever this elusive thing we want. But it seems like they're all they're all pushing there.
I know what you mean, but I'm glad people are trying that out though, right? Rather than just a full-on kind of. I appreciate the effort. Okay, so we leave subtlety behind. For our last film, and this is the Korean Project Wolf Hunting.
AKA the crushing of the grape humans.
Right. Again, I mean, we'll get to this, probably over long at 122 minutes in its uncut form, because I think there is a slightly shorter edited version, I think, out there with slightly less gratuitous violence. But there's no point watching this film without the gratuitous violence, right? That's what it's kind of all about, I think.
Yeah, well, I watched the trailer, so I knew it was going to be violent, but again, I didn't know. I feel like I was looking at the IMDb, and I thought I'd seen. I swear I've seen something, but with one or two of these people in it. But it was. Shall I do the plot?
So this is Project Wolf Hunting, as directed by Kim Hong-sun. And take it away, Robin. What's the plot of this one then?
The plot is that there is a kind of a notorious criminal who gets out of prison. Oh no, he's about to go into prison, sorry. And before he goes into prison. Somebody blows themselves up, yelling something, can't quite remember what. And
this is like the prologue, isn't it?
The prologue, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the entire plot every single second, so it's going to take 1 hour and 25.
Settle in, folks. It's Robin's Jackanory take on Project Wolf Hunting.
With all of the bits I can't remember, but
the word pastiche every now and again.
Pastiche thrown in, not entirely sure what it means still, but
he might sing a King Crimson song.
Yeah. Sorry. So because of the has a bag full of bombs blowing everybody up trying to kill this prisoner, they decide that because
it was at an airport, wasn't it? It was like a transfer of prisoners by air, right? So there was a bunch of media and people at the airport.
It was a big mistake. So now they decided to do it by a ship, which everybody knows is a lot more secure.
That's right.
Ship versus air. We all know this. So yeah, on a big shipping container ship.
A cargo ship, isn't it?
And then you get a little bit confused, or at least I did.
Well, you should mention as well. Sorry to keep interrupting you, Robert. So so initially the prisoners went from Korea to the Philippines, and now they're being extradited back to Korea from Manila, right? Manila to Busan, I think. If I
had forgotten where they were coming from.
Yeah, Manila to Busan. It doesn't really matter, but yeah.
No. And I thought, this could be interesting.
You thought, it's Con Air on a ship, basically, right?
Well, because it's sort of like we've got our in Britain we've got these now they're going to house all this asylum seekers on a ship. And I thought, like a ship-based, sort of action.
Did you make the mistake of thinking that Project Wolf Hunting was going to be a political satire?
I made one mistake, which is I thought it was going to be slightly deeper than it was.
Right.
Or probably a lot deeper than it was. It's extremely shallow. Anyway. And then just when you think it's as shallow as it can be, it
gets stupider.
Further stupid than you can imagine.
But that's not necessarily a criticism.
It's not necessarily a criticism. The only thing is that there's a bunch of criminals on this ship, and
cops escorting them, right?
And cops escorting them, and then there's the sort of higher level, whatever they're called, like Secret Service types. They take over the control room. I thought it was a ship itself, but it's at first, but it's the control room.
Right, it's a comm center, isn't it?
Comm center for the ship tracking, and you don't know why they've really done that. And then the prisoners all break loose, and there's some people on the ship. It's just very, very predictable that this ship just wasn't as secure as you imagine it was going to be.
Yeah,
I thought
it would be a hell of a film if they just arrived in Busan.
Yeah, I thought that was it.
The worst that happened is someone got a suntan.
Yeah, there was going to be the politics of how bad it is having put people on a ship, and we did lots of talking.
Right.
Because I've been reading Great Expectations to my son. I've forgotten what the prison ships were called, but they're mentioned in No, they're called.
No.
Well, they're
Coffin ships.
no. There's a word for it. Anyway,
Okay.
on the Thames, that the disused ships were called something.
Not juggernauts.
Oh no. Hey, I'll see if I can find it. Anyway,
I've never read Great Expectations. Is it good?
Prison.
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, it's good so far. Yeah, I mean,
I haven't
Hulks.
read
They're
much.
called Hulks.
Oh, Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've always been slightly trepidatious of Dickens because I started reading is it the Pickwick Papers, I think is like his first like big novel, right? And because he was kind of he was paid by the word, right? And it was serialized and all that. So it seems like really overinflated and like
a lot of padding.
Yeah. So I've always been but I'm sure some of his books must be really good for him to have that reputation, right? So would you say
I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay.
I mean, it starts off really quite fast paced, actually.
Okay.
And I don't know where it's going. I've no experience of Great Expectations at all. But
you don't have any Great Expectations.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So the prison ships. Yeah. No, but what I was going to say about Great Expectations, which is completely nothing to do with it, but yeah, is with the film we're talking about. Weirdly.
Yeah. No. We were expecting a Charles Dickens adaptation.
It's it's more humorous than I thought it would be. Anyway.
Right. Okay.
So I find it funnier than I thought Dickens was going to be. I thought Dickens was all. This is the first Dickens I've read in it.
Okay.
I thought it was all like, yeah. Oh, and he only had one leg and had to hobble along and still, like all sort of poverty porn for the.
Right.
Anyway, Victorian. Anyway, so yeah, Hulks. So I thought, could be interesting from that point of view, and in some ways, it delivered on the on that prison ship.
Politics and intrigue of international shipping.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. Did it, Robin? Tell the truth.
No, it veered swiftly away.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. So all the crims break loose and smash everyone's heads in.
Yeah,
a lot.
They start off with they don't want to use the bullets, so they just start, and everyone is a grape, so they just
there's a lot of slow tripping
lightly, and they're just.
And thank God it's proper. It seems to be anyway. It doesn't look like crappy, boring CGI blood. You're talking proper squibs and things.
Oh yeah, it's definitely got.
If it was CGI blood, it would be a lot less fun. But because it's proper squishy blood packs and effects and stuff, it's like, okay, good, yes, excellent. I missed this kind of, and Overkill is the name of the game here because there's a lot of it. And the teams are super evil. You got one tattooed chap who enjoys nothing more than having a smoke while pissing on a dying man.
Yeah.
And there's some shootouts, and then there's a deeper, because spoiler alert, deep in the bowels of the ship, there's apparently someone even uses the term big pharma, right? So it's some weird.
He told you it was political. It's good.
Yeah, big pharma and evil World War II era Japanese experimenting villains as well. This film is straight out 80s. It's awesome. The thing about this film was just like really trashy 80s, but like with a big budget. So despite the overlength, and it is overlong, I enjoyed the fuck out of this. It's so trashy, and just when you think it can't get more stupid, the fucking Terminator lives in the bowels of the ship with his eyes sewn shut.
Yeah,
because they're keeping him alive even though he's rotting because they're making face cream or something, basically aging cream, anti-aging cream.
Yeah. Well, he can't. Yeah, well, he can't die, or he doesn't seem to. So they're not keeping him alive.
He's pretty indestructible.
There's a doctor that has to go down and deliver anesthetic so that he doesn't wake up.
Right. Yeah,
but that
doesn't work.
One of those kind of plots you think, wow, okay, fine. But there's two people down there who could deliver the anesthetic. But yeah, we need a way in. So we find our way. He's lying on a bed of sort of
cockroaches and things.
Cockroaches and nice, but it's nice kind of ice bed he's got. Anyway.
Yeah. But his mouth's full of maggots, and because he's literally rotting, right? But he's still alive. Yeah. But he comes back and he's very fit and healthy and beats the crap out of everyone and pulls their arms off and stomps on them. And then, so spoilers again. So when we get to the proper big bad villain in the end, is he basically another experiment that survived?
Yeah.
Why he can beat up the other guy because they're both.
Yeah. Right. They're all. I can't believe he didn't get.
Well, like we said, the film's a bit subtle. It got beyond me sometimes. So basically, this is stupid as you can get. But fuck me, did I enjoy this film? Slightly too long. But what a ride! A perfect Saturday night action go fest. Right?
You have to like your blood. I mean, I liked it not as much as you because I don't quite like it when it's spraying too much. I like it to be a little. I was thinking, what was that? Oh, I've forgotten the name of it. So sorry. But yeah, there's been other sort of splatter fests where I do where the blood's a bit more realistic, which maybe I prefer. But I get that though, that it's comical and it was nice at the fact that it's comical but not silly. It is silly.
It is silly. It's not played. It's not tongue in cheek.
It's not like. Yeah.
There's not one bit where someone winks at the audience. They're serious. It reminded me more than anything else, more than any live action films I can think of. It reminded me of like a certain tone of like a Japanese like anime or maybe manga from like the 80s or something with like just hyper violence and just played totally stoic and straight. Right. The only thing it was missing, it didn't have like sex or rape or anything like that in it. But other than that, it was very much that kind of mid-80s, like Urosoko Doji without the sex element, or like a Violence Jack, or that kind of thing, right? It was just like really straight. You Makai are all the same.
I can't think of anything else to say about it, really.
Well, there's not much to say about it, really. I mean,
it was nice that, that was, I don't know. Yeah, it was good.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
Right.
And I had to watch Earwig straight after, and this is all today because I actually did fall asleep during Earwig because I was watching it too late. So I had to watch the rest today. So yeah, there's quite a contrast. I think it might have been the other way around. Good stuff. Lots of blood. I don't know. Not as keen, like I say, on the spraying, but actually,
what do you like about the spraying?
Well, it depends on my mood, like because the spraying is so silly.
Right.
Sometimes I want you know, I want it to be more realistic because I want people to genuinely die. You know,
I see. Okay.
but
I think this material, it's like the Lone Wolf and Cub,
the plot
arterial
twist,
spray, and yeah.
Yeah, the plot twist is or plot twist or whatever, you know, the plot development, you know, more realistic wouldn't really work with it. I think it just had to be silly. It was just a fun, silly.
Yeah, but I appreciate, the important element for me is that they play it straight and stoic and
but on the other hand, I also would like to see some form of prison ship serious thing as well, with blood and things,
right,
but
without the Terminator.
No Terminator, and just because, you know, I don't know, I don't know. Have you seen anything on a shipping container?
The only thing I can think of that springs to mind that would fit what you're looking for, like a talky, cerebral.
Didn't say talky.
Oh, okay. Well, there's that film. Was it Danish? A Hijack, it was called. It's from a few years back now, and it was a very kind of Scandi, low-key film about a hijacked container ship.
Yeah, no, this I'm more. I was thinking of I was just thinking like, you know, just because of what's happened in this country as well, like, and this idea that we're bringing back the Hulks, we're bringing back those prison ships, and this kind of you know, something interesting about the environment as well, and this you know, this contained environment on, you know, that is potentially on the sea, you know, is you know, it could have a really kind of strong, powerful resonance. And they didn't bother. they you know, they had some of that claustrophobia in there, but it was just daft. Good.
Also, I should point out, what also might have helped was I drank a whole bunch of lager while watching this film as well.
Oh yeah, no, I also watched it sort of about sort of 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock this morning. So I didn't have lager.
Cornflakes. It's not a cornflakes film.
Yeah, it wasn't, not really a morning film. Definitely not. I would have definitely enjoyed it more in the evening. Anyway.
Okay. So until next time then. Bye.
Bye.